Again, thank you for coming this evening. My name is Kim King. I'm the Recreation and Administration Manager for Colorado Springs Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services. Again, we so appreciate the time this evening to come out and hear about the Prospect Lake Aeration Project. We're very excited to have a chance to get it kicked off and get a process in place and hopefully complete it this year. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know just a few housekeeping things. Restrooms are out this door, to the right, and then to the left, right past the corner there. The format of the meeting this evening will be, we're going to have a formal presentation. We'll talk through the designs as well as some of kind of the updates, if you will, for the park itself for this summer and activities on the lake. Then we will dismiss this formal format and we will have staff located at the back at the various boards where you can look kind of in detail at the different design options and kind of their pros and cons. We also have additional staff in the back with more information related to the park. We have April Allen, if April can wave her hand. She is our volunteer coordinator, and she has a sign-up sheet. If you're interested in volunteering, can talk about volunteer opportunities that would be there for the lake. We also have Stephanie Adams, who is our community engagement analyst in the back, and she will have some very handy-dandy items here. One is comment cards. So after you hear about the presentations, have a chance to talk to staff, we would love to get your feedback. So those comment cards are in the back, and then she has baskets. You can drop them off if you want to do something tonight. She also has information regarding our website. So we have a project page set up for this particular project. It will have a recording of tonight's meeting. It will also have the slides. It will also have the report that basically delineates the two designs and talks about them in more detail. There's also an online survey there. So we, definitely encourage people, or if you know people that aren't able to come tonight, please, grab one of these pieces of paper, direct them out to that site on the city's webpage and have them check it out and fill out the online survey. Then we also have, to my far right, Stephanie Search, who is a grants analyst with the department, and she's actually has information related to another enhancement to Memorial Park, which is increased security measures. That through a partnership with the police department, we received a $1.7+ million grant. We are adding gates, we're adding lights, and we're adding cameras to Memorial Park. And that should be done by the end of June is the project target date right now. So she can, show you designs as far as where that lighting is going to be and talk further about that fantastic opportunity that we had come up regarding Memorial Park. So we're very excited about that. So while we're here primarily about the lake and the aeration system, we thought while we have you, we'd love to be able to share some additional information related to that. So with that, I think I will turn it over to Eric Rodriguez, who is our environmental safety and health specialist, to talk about the nuts and bolts of the designs and what it hopes to accomplish in improving lake health. Oh, and one more thing before we start, I did want to recognize Councilmember Donaldson, who is here this evening. Thank you so much for your time. And I also wanted to recognize in the back our director, Britt Haley of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Services for being here this evening. Thank you.
So like Kim said, I'm Eric Rodriguez. I'm the environmental health and safety specialist here for the City of Colorado Springs Parks and Rec Department. And I kind of wanted to frame this when we started to what our primary goals on this project were. So our primary goals were to create an aeration system that had the possibility to inject our treatments into the full water body, as opposed to the shoreline treatments that we're currently doing. Also, our goal was to try to eliminate the hazardous algae blooms that we've seen in 2019 and 2020. While we have been successful in our treatments, we wanted to try to take a proactive look at the water quality. One of the other things that I'll note is CDPHE has come out with some water quality standards that we were made aware of and through some stakeholder meetings in May of 2022. Next, Cassie. So some background, we did have in 2019 and 2020 hazardous algae blooms, which caused closures of the lake, which you guys are aware of. In 2021 and 2022, we were able to start proactively treating the lake and the water body, and we did not have any closures during that time. January or in 2021, we were awarded ARPA funds in the sum of $459,036 to do this project to create an aeration system. And we went out for competitive bid in January of 2022, at which time we had our voter meeting and we had a lot of feedback from a lot of the members in this group. We went out and we got a change order from Eco Resources, who we awarded our design to. And in February of 2023, we had 2 aeration designs submitted to us, which we're going to go over today. So what is blue-green algae? Blue-green algae, hazardous algae blooms. It's cyanobacteria, an algae that creates a toxic condition for the lake. It releases microcystine, which is hazardous to people, pets, if you ingest it. So that's why we're looking at, eliminating the public hazard and, creating additional water quality. One of the other things that it does is it lowers the dissolved oxygen rate based on how it metabolizes and how it actually lives. The other things that it does when it lowers the dissolved oxygen and it releases some toxins, it can be a contributor to fish kills. Some of the other contributors to fish kills are the species of fish. Many of the fish that we see in Prospect Lake are cold water fish. And also the high water temperatures can be a high stressor to the fish. So in 2019 and 2020, what these graphs are kind of indicating for everybody is the microcystine levels that we did see. So the toxin that was released into the lake. I do want to note 2 things on these diagrams. You'll notice a very large spike in 2019. That spike was actually when the algiform dies off, it releases all those toxins. So we saw that very large spike, and then it immediately falls off because it's no longer living, it's no longer viable. That was during the colder part of the year. In 2019, our level that CDPHE for safe water quality for microcystine had released was 4 micrograms per liter. The number is probably all that really matters. In 2020, they actually bumped that to 8. So they went back, looked through what the EPA and other states were doing and changed that number. One thing else is there needs to be 2 consecutive weeks following a bloom that those levels are below those recreational thresholds before we're able to open a water body. So you can kind of see in both of those years it leveled off, and that's when we were able to reopen the reservoir. So with lake aeration, what does it do? In this diagram, what you'll notice is you'll see 2 bodies of water. In the top body of water, you notice that it's very stratified. There's levels of oxygen closer to the top where the fish are naturally living. And then in the bottom portion, it's more sludgy. It's anoxic, meaning there's no oxygen really flowing through that area. And what aeration does is essentially oxygenates that whole entire area and eliminates kind of that stratification that we're seeing in the reservoir. So it allows the reservoir to be healthier, it reduces nutrients, and it's all around. It helps out the fish, the wildlife that call a lake home. So the benefits, and I kind of covered this a little bit already. But it increases the available oxygen. It reduces the possibility of fish kills because we are introducing additional oxygen. That's one of the contributing factors to why we have seen fish kills is the reduced oxygen levels in our reservoirs. And it reduces odor. The reason it reduces odor is you were talking about that sludgy anoxic layer. That's what's producing that layer. The oxygenation actually helps and allows the healthier bacteria to flourish, and all around you get better water quality. It reduces nutrient load in the water body. Nutrient loading in a water body is known as eutrophication, so a compounding of nutrients. And what it does is it has the ability to, through the bacteria, create and reduce those nutrients. One of the nutrients that it reduces is organic phosphorus, which is the limiting kind of reagent for algae blooms. So your algae is going to bloom when you have a lot of phosphorus. Our ideal type of turnover for an aeration system, ideal world, is about 24 hours when you put an aeration system in a lake. What it does is it reduces the anoxic layer like we talked about. And that's a perfect world. So those are kind of what we would look for in the design. But that's not always achievable. That's perfect world type of thing. So water quality, we're looking ahead, the 10-year roadmap that CDPHE has put together. We're required to start meeting and implementing these changes for our lake in 2027. What these do is they will regulate chlorophyll A, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Those are the ones that are important to us. CDPHE is actually looking at a wide range of regulation during this roadmap phase. But the rulemaking will occur in April. It says April 10th. That has changed a couple times, but it is going to be official here shortly. You'll see kind of what the revised standard is and where our water body was sitting last fall. So on the right, you see that our current levels for nitrogen are 1100, for phosphorus it's 93, for chlorophyll it's 600, whereas the revised statutes are going to require us to be under those levels, the chlorophyll being 20, nitrogen being just under double, phosphorus being around triple. So it's something just to be aware of that we're looking at trying to meet. Sources from where we're getting this into our water body. Geese do produce a good chunk of phosphorus into the lake. Fish and algae increase the nitrogen loading. And you're going to see our chlorophyll A is actually from algae. So algae in all forms, chlorophyll A is the pigment that algae needs for photosynthesis. So like I had said, we have been actively treating the lake for blue-green algae since 2020, excuse me, May of 2020. We weren't able to proactively treat. We ran into some budgetary concerns and cuts due to COVID. So we got behind the curve in 2020, and we did see that bloom that occurred. Since then, we've been able to proactively treat and shoreline treat. This product that we've chosen to use, it's called Restore by Solutions for Earth. It's one of those products that I really took some time to look at. We did a lot of research. It is people safe, it's pet safe, it's fish safe. It's one of those products where, it's really good for the lake as a whole, and it doesn't have any damaging properties like some of the other treatments for blue-green algae can. It's not a pesticide. It can actively reduce phosphorus. So all around, our treatments are working really good. We're just looking at a way to continue to improve the water quality of Prospect Lake. So this slide is going to look really familiar to everybody. I just thought it was worth noting and putting back up, be a graph. So we kind of just talked about in 2020 how we actively started treating. That treatment took a little bit of time to take over, but as you notice, our trending lines are moving down and starting to flatten out. Sorry about that. It wasn't in there. You got more information than you needed for our presentation. All right, so that brings us to our designs. I want to outline the design first off. So the design, what we're looking at is the black lines are going to be aeration lines. So that's what's going to be taking all of the compressed air out to our diffuser heads, which are going to be the green dots. And then our yellow lines are actually going to be where that injection system is going to be able to transport our treatment out to the aeration lines so that it can be distributed across the lake. I'll also note that they're sitting from a centralized point. We're going to have a shack shed type of configuration there where our compressors will be housed, which will be the same as in design 2. So down to kind of the specifications of this design is it'll turn over the lake in 53.39 hours, which is about 2 days. Our designer noted that this is great for lake turnover. They feel like this is adequate aeration for this lake. It also treats the injection like we had asked for. We're able to treat the lake as a whole. It does support motorized. The designer, what they did was they strategically placed our diffuser heads in deeper locations, and we also put in fewer lines that could prevent those lines from being hit. One of our main goals was being able to maintain this system. They did note that there is no LG Sonic on this, so it may be harder to reach our chlorophyll A standard that CDPHE is going to have put forward. So design 2, it looks about the same, right? There's just a couple things added to it. The black lines are still the aeration lines, the green dots are still the aeration heads, and the yellow lines are still those injection lines. You'll note that there's now a black square, which is 2 black squares, which are 2 LG Sonic buoys. And the purple circles are the LG Sonic coverage. So this design will turn over the lake in 28.48 hours, which is approximately 1 day. And that's due to the increased number in diffuser heads and the additional lines that are flowing throughout the lake. It's still treated through an injection system. It does not support motorized due to the additional number of lines that would be in the shallower areas and the buoys. The LG Sonic buoys are about 10 foot by 10 foot. So LG Sonics, ultrasonic algae, and how does it work? The ultrasonic waves actually send out and they emit an ultrasonic frequency, which disrupts the algae from being able to float up and down in the water column. They do that it's part of their natural living life cycle. This type of system has been used and researched for 20 plus years. One of the things that they've noted is that algae have the ability to microadapt, which is pretty cool for such a small organism. But the ultrasonic algae actually reduces the chlorophyll because it doesn't allow that bacteria to continue to flourish. Things that the LG Sonic does compared to other ultrasonic systems that are out there is it actively monitors the lake environment. So it's checking temperatures, nutrient levels, clarity, chlorophyll A, what's going on. Then it has the ability to put that into an algorithm, and then the parent company can kind of adjust what frequencies are being put out into the lake. So the blue-green algae doesn't have the ability to microadapt. It's also being used in several reservoirs here pretty well in Colorado. Berthoud, Johnstown are 2 of them. It's also being used throughout the nation and throughout Europe. So some component comparisons. What is the difference between design 1 and design 2? Design 1 and design 2. Design 1 has 1 compressor head. Design 2 has 2. That's just to power and get enough air out to all the diffuser heads. Both of the designs use a double disced diffuser, which is basically 2 diffuser heads to send out the compressed air into the water. And then the other things here are, you'll notice, are just kind of components to the system. you'll have the braided lines, the copper pipe, and the braided hose with the liner. Those differences are just due to the number of diffuser heads. Design 2 does have buoy system, and our designer did call out the potential for 8 lighted buoys. So here's a good comparison of the two designs side by side and what they look like for effectiveness. So lake turnover is for design 1 is 0.45 days, design 2 is 0.84 days. To circulate the volume in hours, design 1 is 53.59 hours versus design 2 is 28.48 hours. This is just kind of going through some of those specifications. You'll notice that the cost difference just for the materials, I don't have a labor cost or a building cost. Design 1 to design 2. Design 1 is $23,000 and design 2 is $153,500. The difference in that being most of that is for the LG Sonic buoys. Design 1 does support motorized, design 2 does not due to the surface structures. There is an increased risk for vandalism in design 2, as there is surface structures to the body of water. There is the possibility that those are vandalized. The vandalism risk is much lower for design 1. Both of them do incorporate the injection system. And then, as I had mentioned, both of the designs do have a shed, a maintenance shed for our compressors to sit for the injection system. This is a line rendering of what that will look like. It will be stored on the east side of the lake, kind of where the Aquatic and Fitness Center is, just down the hill from there. So it'll be on the shoreline. It will match all the other buildings in the area also. So the boat house and the beach house, it'll be that same type of color palette. So it does match the historic buildings that we do have out there. So, and that's it for the designs. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Kim.
And as I mentioned at the beginning, we also want to talk a little bit about what else will be going on at the lake. So this will only take a few more minutes, but we wanted to highlight a few things. Before I do that, though, I did want to recognize Councilmember O'Malley. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Also wanted to recognize Greg Thornton, who is one of our current Parks Board members and is in attendance this evening. Also, I wanted to recognize Andrew Rummel, who handles our Sertich Ice Center, and his operation is the one who manages our permitting process. I also want to recognize our therapeutic recreation team who are here this evening as well. Therapeutic recreation is one of our key programs. They have had a adaptive water ski program in place for over 25 years that's utilized the lake almost every year, and except in a couple of instances when it was closed. So we want to recognize them for being here as well. Thank you. Moving on, and we are at Prospect Lake Use. So again, this goes back to Andrew's operation in terms of we provide annual permits for both motorized and non-motorized, as well as day permits. These can be utilized at Prospect Lake as well as Quail Lake. As you can see over time, we have had a decrease in 2022 in terms of motorized annual permits, but part of that, I think, was, again, coming off of COVID, as well as also we weren't sure what was going to be happening with the lake last year as we started the aeration project. Initially started then. So we did see a decrease there, but we have seen a significant increase in the non-motorized permitting, which I think indicates, again, just a lot of interest in the lake and being able to use it in a variety of ways. So this just gives you an idea of what some of that usage has looked like over the years. Then these are just a couple of slides. We actually had an opportunity to work with a Colorado College intern over the summer. And when we were talking about the lake and activities and activation of the lake, part of a project they worked on was looking at what kind of utilization we have. So they went out and actually surveyed over a number of days, different time periods, just kind of what activity occurs around the lake overall. So what we saw from different time periods, again, and this is kind of aggregated and averaged, in the morning, a key piece is that walking loop around the lake. And that is actually huge for people. You have walkers and runners and people in roller skates and strollers. And it is significant at over 60% use from like 9 to 12 on an average day. Next is actually the beach access, which if you recall, we actually went to a no cost option for the beach. So we saw that that was second. And then in terms of use for third was actually non-motorized activity on the lake at 8%. So in the mornings, that lake loop is huge. As you move throughout the day and you look at noon to 3 p.m., you can see things still, that exercise path and using that lake loop is huge. I know we get a lot of individuals from the neighborhood as well as individuals from the medical centers coming over and walking the loop at lunch. You can see increased activity in the beach. And then third most was, again, looking at non-motorized use. And then finally, later in the afternoon, you can see that it actually switches over and the beach use is actually increased. Exercise loop is next. And then it's actually tied between, again, is looking at non-motorized use, and then fishing is coming in next. Now, again, keep in mind, these are aggregated times. Also, they're split over days because we have non-motorized on some days and we have motorized use on other days. So when you look at that, when you're talking between 8% versus 6%, definitely it's usage, but when you look at how many people are walking around the loop, you're seeing where those numbers change. So this is just giving a general overview and recognizing all the activities that go on and around the lake too. So the aeration definitely affects the people that are actually on the lake, but we really see a lot of benefit for the people that are just around the lake and just enjoying having clean smelling, clear water. Looking at other activities and that we are continuing, we've been very excited with the remodel of the beach house. We'll have Lakeside Dogs, our concessionaire, back again this year. They should be opening up soon. April, I believe mid-April is when they're targeting. It's a great spot, has a wonderful location for a lunch or a cocktail. They are looking at having special events out on the patio. They are available for rentals. So we are also looking to do increased activity with our Generation Wild program, which is a youth education program. They will be holding camps out there as well this summer. So we're really excited to have that activation occur once again. And then next, and actually I'd like to introduce, if you don't know Jacob, most people know Jacob Figueroa. He is our stand-up paddleboard contractor out of the boathouse. He's here this evening as well, and we've renewed that contract again. So we will have that non-motorized opportunity there. Jacob has paddleboards and canoes and kayaks and is a great resource and really helps have eyes on the lake as well. So we're excited that he's going to be back again. Again, as I mentioned before, we went to a no cost, basically swim at your own risk model in terms of the lake. Last year, we tried to designate an area with buoys, and those buoys floated around the lake. They did not stay anchored in the lake, they floated around the lake. So that kind of defeated the purpose of designating an area that we were trying to keep people. Access was fine, but trying to make sure they stayed safe. Not everybody recognizes motorized versus non-motorized days. So this year we are going to go back to a roped buoy area. It will be, again, in an area between the boathouse and the beach house, free access, but signage will be updated to let's do free access within that roped area. So we're excited about that. We really thought the buoys would do it, but they did not. And then finally, looking at the communication plan going forward. So we had an opportunity to meet with representatives from the motorized community prior to this meeting. They gave us great feedback. We were able to increase the aeration strength even on the on the motorized option design 1. So we appreciate all the feedback they provided, and we were able to do that. We have the community meeting this evening. We have the online page, which will include the slides. They will include a recording of this presentation as well as the online survey. We will also be presenting this information to Parks Board on March 9th. That is Thursday, 7:30 a.m. at our office at 1401 Recreation Way. Then we will also have an opportunity to present at City Council work session at the end of the month on March 27th as an information item, because we've had lots of interest from council members as well. So we'll provide that to them too. And then after that, it will go to city administration for a final recommendation in terms of which design we go with. And then we will go through a process of a bid process in terms of finding a contractor to actually do the installation. So I can't tell you yet what that time frame will be, because we have to get that contractor on board, check what their schedule is, and coordinate. We will obviously keep in mind, what time of year it is, what events we have going on, and make sure that we will do our best to limit any disruption to access to the lake to get this installed. Then finally, wanted to highlight the city's website again in terms of where all this information can be found. As we move through the process, we will update this project page, so you can always go check it out and see if there's new information. If we have information, we get that schedule set up, we will definitely update the page to make everybody aware, and it'll be a good point of reference going forward. Again, we do have the online survey available. We also will have the comment cards at the back tonight, so either is available with that. And again, Stephanie Adams also has info sheets with this address. So again, if you know people that weren't able to make it, please grab some of those cards and give those to them so they can definitely check out the information that's been presented. And then finally, I'd like to thank you again for your time this evening. As I mentioned before, what we would like to do is, kind of dismiss this formal piece of the presentation. We have the boards available at the back. We have staff available to talk about designs, but also to talk about the security enhancements that are going to be happening at the lake, as well as those comment cards that we would love to have people complete tonight, if you would like to do that. Also, if you came in late and did not sign in, please, before you leave, we would love to have your name and your zip code as a reference that you did attend the meeting. That would be fantastic for us. And again, just please, we would love to have you talk to staff, give us your feedback, give us your thoughts. And again, thank you again for your time this evening.